Oscar Bevis for the Stomping Ground, powered by Wow Hydrate and available on the DAZN. Josh Padley. I want to start by playing something.
Ready to cause chaos again?
Mate, I absolutely love it. Only in this sport would this happen. If you can, talk to me about what's probably been a mental, 24, 36 hours?
Yeah, 36 hours. It's been absolutely crazy. But obviously this is what the pinnacle of the sport. Obviously you can't turn these opportunities down, so whatever you need to do to get this over the line, obviously we've done it, and here we are in Saudi, and like you say, like the video says, I'm here to cause chaos. I'm not here just to show up. I ain't got that in me. I'm here because I believe I can win, and I'm going out there to win, so that's the game plan.
Yeah, I mean, we saw what you done to Mark Chamberlain at Wembley. I think that was the last time I spoke to you, and I know you've got dreams beyond just that night, but at the moment, I guess it felt like life probably couldn't get any better, and yet the WBC world title will be fought for on Saturday night.
Yeah, it's been, to be fair, since the Mark win, it's been quite slow. Obviously, we were hoping to get signed by one of the major promotion teams after that, but that didn't really come off.
Why do you think that's the
case?
I
don't know what the case is with that. You'd have thought that beating Mark at a category above what my actual category was, and the way that I did it, were comfortable, you know what I mean? There were that we want a close fight, in my opinion. You'd have thought that I'd convinced some people that I am a serious lightweight, but it didn't really come off. And then this past week, 3 fights have potentially come off. Well, 2 other than this one. Each one seemed to have got a little bit bigger than the last one. And then the call come in for this one Tuesday, 6 o'clock at night. Shakur Stevenson, WBC lightweight championship. It was like a bit of a surreal moment, but it's one of them ones that you can't, like say, this is what you're in the sport for. You can't turn this down.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how boxing works? Because you talk about other fights presenting themselves literally on this week. If one of them fights had come off, you wouldn't be sitting here. Yeah. And yet Wembley was the back end of September.
Yeah,
it's funny how the sport works.
Yeah, and each of them fights that did come, we were obviously considering them. You know what I mean? And then the next one come, we considered that, and then obviously this one come and blew them 2 out of the water, because how can you turn a world title fight down, even if it is on 4 days' notice? But you've got to roll the dice, haven't you, when it's an opportunity like this.
Who contacted you about the fight? Was it Matchroom, Riyadh Season?
Yeah, no, Matchroom contacted us about the fight, asking if we'd be interested, and a couple of calls, well, say a couple, it started at 6 o'clock, and I don't think we got off the phone till about 10:30 or something like that, so I think I did about 40,000 laps in my kitchen, walking up and down, pacing. But yeah, absolutely buzzing when we actually got it over the line, because it wasn't actually until Wednesday at about 1:30 that we actually booked the flights. Yeah, because we had some other little bits.
So that's not. I'm trying to. So we're 3 hours ahead here. Yeah. So literally 24 hours ago, the flights were booked.
Yeah, it was Wednesday about 1:30. We booked the flights for 5 o'clock in Manchester and flew straight over here. Well, to Istanbul, and then here we are. Arrived here this morning.
I know the boxing world has obviously heard this because it's one of the most played clips over the last few hours. But you were fixing solar panels at the time.
Tuesday, Wednesday. Went to work as normal, and then come home from work Tuesday night after obviously crawling through lofts, doing solar panels, saying, Josh, you're never going to believe it. Tom Stalker, my manager, rang me and said, you're never going to believe this. Stevenson's opponents pulled out and they want you. And they were like...
Was you keeping track of the Floyd Schofield thing? Because throughout the week, obviously it's a big week, and throughout the week there's been a lot of claims, and I'm not saying was you keeping track of it with an eye on the fact that you'd be fighting for the world title, but his old man's been making a lot of claims about passports, about planting things in rental cars, and it's been a bit of a crazy build-up.
I seen an interview where him and Stevenson were together, and it gave me a bit of weird vibes. You know, when they were like talking to each other, and I think he was about like a cut or something on his face, and it were a bit weird. That I watched that and I thought, that's awkward. That didn't really know what to make of it, but obviously whatever's happened. I don't know. There's loads of rumours flying about from his camp and stuff, but better for me, because obviously here I am stepping in. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What's the weight situation like? Obviously, you're a man who's in the gym, and obviously here because of that. But has there been like a stringent process that you've had to go through in 24 hours? Or
we got
so obviously the weigh-in is you've arrived and the weigh-in's tomorrow.
Yeah, priority calls. Obviously, as soon as Tom rang, the second person we called were our nutritionist Charlie, just to make sure that we could do it safely, because obviously that's number one priority is obviously making sure that you can do it safely. Once we established, obviously, yeah, looks like you can do it safely, Josh. We then called Steffi and Jason, got them on board. Probably 10, 15 calls later, it was the nod. So then Wednesday we had a lot of running about to do. So weight's all good. Did my check weight. That was the last thing we had to do before booking the flights. We had to get someone from board to come over, do a check weight, and then book the flights, and we're off here.
Would I be right in saying you're ranked 12 with
WBC? I think I'm ranked 12.
Floyd Schofield's ranked 13.
Yeah.
So are we sitting here with a man who is arguably more deserving of fighting for the WBC World Lightweight title? Don't want to...
Higher ranked than him, you know. I know there's a lot of probably a lot of things online saying who's Josh Padley and stuff like that, but obviously I beat someone to get here and I deserve that spot, and I'm going to show that on Saturday night.
Yeah, I mean, you showed, I know those in the game would have known who you were, but you showed perhaps a more casual audience in the UK with the Chamberlain win.
Yeah.
I guess the casual audience in America, if the Shakur fight goes how you want, I mean, have you thought about that's name up in lights, the biggest light?
Oh yeah, of course I've thought about that, because obviously that's the result that I want. I want that win, and imagine pulling this off on 4 days' notice, a WBC championship against a pound for pound fighter. There's not much, you know what I mean. That is going to be a very small minority of people that are going to be able to do that. But that's what I'm coming to do, because imagine the life changing opportunities that have come after that. Yeah. So yeah.
What do you make of Shakur as a fighter?
He's very talented. He obviously look where he is and what he's done, and obviously standout star Olympian. Obviously, massive following in America for that reason. But here I am to upset that, and the stuff that I think that I'll be able to do to him, and I'm sure he's stuff that he's got a quick look at me. And Saturday night we'll see how that gets on. What
do you reckon this fight week is? And I know this is obviously a question for him and his team, but not that they'd probably answer it honestly, but what do you think this fight week has done to him? Because he's been quite adamant even prior to this week, saying like, he didn't show up to the press conference. I'm not too sure about Floyd Schofield. They've had a couple of interactions, and then he gets a pull out, and he's unsure about whether he's fighting on Saturday. So what do you reckon his kind of feeling? He must be pretty drained.
Yeah, I think he will be. But we did it quite a quick turnaround, wasn't it? It was obviously the grand arrivals that night, and we'd pretty much said we're good to go by 10 o'clock that night. So I mean, that would have probably been a bit of pressure off. It were only 2 tiny cups that we had to get over Wednesday before we set off. So I think obviously they'd been a bit gutted, but obviously he'd be probably thankful for Matchroom for turning it around on such short notice. And he's obviously not been the most active of fighters, as in coming off some injuries and stuff like that. So I'm sure he's happy that he's getting in that ring, and obviously so am I.
Yeah. I mean, he's been criticised for perhaps not being the busiest at times. I think he set the record in one of his fights on CompuBox for least amount of punches thrown. There has been, I mean, look, he's ridiculously talented. There has been a bit of criticism. Is that something that you see perhaps a fighter who isn't as busy as fans and experts might like?
It's just obviously Shakur's style, how he feels comfortable getting that win. He's obviously, he's not going to put himself in a position where if he thinks that he's going to be put at risk, he's obviously comfortable doing what he's doing and getting the win every time. So that's what he does. It's obviously not the most fan-friendly style for people to watch, and that's where the criticism comes from. But he's winning at the end of the day, and look where he's at. So it's obviously works, and it's fair play to him.
Yeah, I know there's going to be a lot of people, either the few who would travel over from the UK for this fight, and those watching at home that are probably going to be willing you in front of the TV to go in there and just absolutely go to war and see what happens. I know there is obviously method behind the madness, but making the most of this opportunity, are you going to stand there at points and go, you know what, let's have a fight?
No, I'm soaking it up completely, yeah. And if that opportunity presents itself in the fight, and I feel like that's the thing to do in there, and then I'll take it. But obviously, I'm also in there to win. So whatever I need to do in my head to win that fight is what I'm going to do. If it's box, it's box. If I see an opportunity, I'll take it. So we'll just see on Saturday night.
Yeah. What do you think it's going to be like between you and Shakur?
I wouldn't have thought so.
We do like a kind of Brit against what can be sometimes a mouthy American.
Yeah, I mean, I've sort of...
Hasn't really been time to bed the rivalry, I guess.
I've sort of prepared myself that there probably is going to be a bit of that, because he'll be looking down on me, and there'll be probably a bit of arrogance there from his part, thinking, who are you and why? But at the end of the day, there's who else are you going to get to step in on 4 days' notice that's going to make the weight that's going to travel over here in time, that's got the rankings that they need. Like Eddie said, on all them things, I fit the bill perfectly, and I'm up for the task. So,
I mean, those who know you and the team are over the moon. It's all anyone's been talking about this morning. The bill, by the way, I know your fight is your concern, but everyone's been saying the best card of the century. Just the list of achievements of the fighters that are fighting on Saturday night. And when you look back at the card, it's going to say Josh Padley.
Yeah, it's going to say Josh Padley. It's a bit of a crazy one, like you say. It's when you think of the calibre of fighters on there, and then you've got me that's obviously coming off a building site again to win. So I am the odd one out, but don't get me wrong. In that ring, I'm going to show that I am, and this is where I belong. And I'm looking forward to the task of Shakur's a world-class operator and pound-for-pound star, so it'd be interesting to see what I can do on 4 days' notice and see what I can do when I'm getting there.
Yeah. What fight was you most looking forward to on the card?
Probably the Dubois. After obviously watching the AJ Dubois thingy, I picked AJ throughout that. I thought it'd just be too much, but probably Dubois is coming to a new man on here at the minute, and all his trash talking and stuff that he's doing at the minute, I rate it. I like it.
Yeah, Dubois was kind of changed by Wembley, and obviously you were changed by Wembley too. Final one. What are you expecting from the next few days? Obviously, I know you're going to have to do many more of these interviews, and there's a lot of lights and camera, and that you had that obviously on the Wembley week. But how do you play the next few days, and what kind of stuff are you expecting?
Similar sort of attitude to what I had last time, soak it in. When we obviously did the Wembley card, I think I'd done about 4 or 5 interviews prior to that. And then on the media day, I think I did 20 consecutively after each other. So I'm getting more used to it. But yeah, just soak it in, enjoy it. Limelight's back on me. So make most of it and prove a point again.